because you have anxiety.
It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker. I'm Robert Mesh, and I'm the guy they call Smoker Broker. I got it on my hat. I got it on my shirt. It's summer, and it's hot now, so I need my damn collar shirt on today. We would go from spring straight into summer. We go from rain straight into dry. Wake up one day, go outside, humid, and it sucks. And I've been sitting there complaining about it, saying I wish it would stop raining and it would get warmer. And now, within less than a week, it's hot, and I'm bitching about it. Big surprise, anybody who knows me. I do hate humidity, and weird for someone who's from Southern Louisiana. You know what? I think that's the problem when you're from Southern Louisiana. You just can't stand the humidity. It's horrible. So we are back and at it, and we are live into the summer. Happy Thursday. We are in the summer. Kids are off school. They are back out and about. A different summer this year, right? Much different than last year. It's funny. You don't even realize, or you don't even piece together that this summer is like a complete different hemisphere than it was last year. You had so many kids that were at home, parents at home, working. The kids are very limited in their activities. You got to think there's some sense of relief out there for a lot of people, especially in this country. I know some other countries are still struggling with COVID, but I was just thinking about that today, how different that has to be, where kids are back in. I mean, our son's gone he's doing a trip this week, and that just wasn't even going to happen last year. It wasn't even thought of. So it's nice to see that again. And it's giving some sense of normalcy back to what it is that we're doing. It just kind of also reminds you how rough it was last year, having kids everywhere and no place for them to go, and you're sitting there working, and we still are working, but it's a little bit easier now because it's a little bit more quiet at times because they're doing things versus just being at home. So I think that's a relief for everybody out there. The housing market continues to steam along. There is no stopping it. It is a robust market. Nothing's going to happen to it, at least not in the meantime. It's funny, as many buyers that say they're having trouble getting into a home, we sure as hell keep putting buyers in houses. It's hard to talk to people when they say, hey, I'm trying to buy a house, but I can't. I'm like, a lot of other people that are, It's almost like if you have a will, there's a way. And you just have to figure out what it is that you need to do to get that house. So I kind of get mixed feelings these days about when someone tells me it's tough to get a house. I mean, I know that, but people are still doing it. In fact, millions are doing it daily. And, our numbers are up again. And I don't see them, if anything, they trend what they did last year. And they'll continue to be like that. We don't see a break. The rates are still, they're just hanging on right there in the upper twos and lower threes, and they go back and forth like a ping pong ball. And I think that's what's continuing to hold this market in place, with the allure that having a house is just so hard to get now. Everybody, you always want the things that you can't have, right? You always want the things that you can't have. I was on I was being interviewed the other day, and I threw that comment out there. I was really just saying it as a reflex more than anything, but I started thinking about it, and it's true. It's very possible that that is one of the fuel energies that are being used to drive this market. It very well could be that old cliche that, I want it, but I can't have it. So now I'm going to try the hardest I can to go get it, no matter what it takes. And I have all these people out there doing the same thing. So it's a wild one. Most of the veterans in this industry, including me, have not seen it like this before. It can make it difficult for us to explain at times, but real estate, it seems to find a way. Real estate's very cyclical. It doesn't matter whether it's high, whether it's low, whether it's medium. Real estate always has a way of continuing to move on. And I always tell everybody, I get this question probably at least 10 times a week, where someone says, well, I bet you guys are worried once the market goes bad. I'm like, yeah, that's the myth. I go, here's the great thing about being a real estate agent. When the market's hot, we're selling a ton of property. And when it crashes, we're buying that property up because we know damn good and well that property will eventually go back up because real estate is cyclical. There is no bad market for not only real estate agent, but for people who have real estate knowledge. They're always going to find a way to continue to move on. So no matter how or what you think about the market or how glum or happy you are about the market, just remember it continues to move. It's always there. And that's why it's so great. It's why it's a great profession. And I think it's an important conversation to start off our topic today, because we are talking about, as you get into real estate, answering the common question, what is it that I need to do? And I think that this topic blends into that, because we're talking about this is a great profession and it is something you want to succeed in. And it can be hard to start off on it. I don't sugarcoat that. I think all my guys know that. And anybody I've ever taught, instructed, or whatever, we don't sugarcoat the fact it can be difficult getting into it. And even in all my interviews, I'm typically pessimistic about someone's first and second year, or in Brent's case, his fourth or fifth year. But I'm very, as much as pessimistic as I am about those years, I'm that much more optimistic by the end of their second and their third, because most of the agents do start showing a significant increase. And that's the first takeaway of today, because we're going to have a lot of new agents that watch this show, especially when we post it on archive. The first takeaway is right off the bat, there is a very promising career in there. It just might take a little while to get to. All right.
It's kind of like working for Jordan Belfort at our firm. It's kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street, the way Robert runs his firm. He made my wife shave her head the first day. It was really weird.
Yeah, that's a very mature movie to be quoting. Yeah, my buddy over here, Brett, him and I do the show together, and we also run SWR together. He is an expert in the real estate industry, and he focuses in the North Texas area, in the northern suburbs, but he'll pretty much go just about anywhere within 100 miles or so if he has
Depends
to.
what the commission is.
Depends what the commission is. He would drive down to Houston if it was good enough. I'm pretty sure he would. Hell, I would. So I was good to have him. I couldn't do the show without him. Most of the topics come from Brent, and the criteria and all the things that we talk about are stem from him. You'd be surprised too. Sometimes it's weeks in advance. Sometimes it's hours in advance, depending on where I'm at in my schedule. But that's what's awesome about the show, is that we can talk all the time about real estate. Ray, is there anything out there that was important this week that I can't think of? I looked. I didn't see anything major this past week.
No, there's talks about those giant corporations buying up all the inventory.
Oh, yeah. So
BlackRock.
I've mentioned this a few times, and I'll mention it again because it's important and it's a problem that's out there. And I don't know what the right answer is just yet, but we have discussed several times on the show that it has and always will be the American dream to own a house. Most people say one of the things great about being in this country is that you can't own your own home. Okay. And this is the first time in a long time that dream's threatened. It's threatened right now because that's not necessarily true. It used to be where if you could have good credit and good income, that you should be able to buy a house. And that's just not true right now because of what Brent's talking about. There are some people out there that are starting to pool together and buy up massive amounts of houses because
for overpriced too,
they can do it.
50% over.
What's that?
They're paying 50% over, which
Yeah, they know they can pay it.
the hypocrite in me is like, go ahead and buy mine then.
Yeah, it's a power play.
Yeah.
It's a power play. They're trying to acquire inventory because real estate's a good asset to have. So no matter what it takes, we're going to get it. And that's fine. And as of right now, it's okay to do it. I don't know if ethically it's okay to do it. I'm always careful with that too. I joked a few weeks ago that when I had the same conversation, that I wanted to post out there that this is a problem and it's not good. But then I realized that 20-30% of our clients are those people too. So it kind of puts us in a tough spot there as to what is right or wrong. Do we support people buying assets such as homes because we've encouraged it for years and we believe it's a good investment, and it is a good investment? But do we do that at the sacrifice of the hardworking American that wants to buy a home and can't because they cannot outbid, I'll call it a corporation, but sometimes it's not, a syndicate, whatever. I mean, what's right? I don't know. And I think that this conversation is going to continue to be upon us for a long time, us discussing what's right or wrong. What's going to be really interesting, and we did discuss this before too, but because that article did come out this past week, I thought we should talk about it again. The government, at some point, they're going to start noticing what they do already. They know. They're aware of it. It just takes so long to get legislation passed in this country, but rest assured, they're going to do something. They will. They're not going to let it happen. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying they're not going to let it happen. At some point, and I know that because they've done this before. They've done this with the HUD homes. HUD homes are the government-backed loans that go foreclosed. So when you have an FHA or a VA and the buyer defaults, it goes back to the government under the HUD program. And the government resells those homes typically at a discount. Well, years ago, investors caught on to that. They knew that they were getting at least a 30% markdown on a home. So they started buying it up. Well, the program was intended to give those homes to first-time home buyers. And they started realizing it wasn't first-time home buyers that were buying it because they were being outbid by investors, which is pretty much what's happening right now. So what did the government go and do? They went in there and said there will be an owner occupancy clause, meaning you cannot buy that house unless you are going to be the owner occupant and you are going to live there for at least 9 months.
Yep.
Or 1 year. We're actually, I can't remember if it might be 1 year.
No, now it's a year.
So 1 year. And if they've done it before, they can do it again. And my guess is when it affects this many people, I think they're going to be more persuasive this time around than they have been. I'm actually kind of surprised there's not already push legislation going through for an immediate stop to this. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's coming. It's coming, and it's only going to be a matter of time. So that was out there too. I saw that, and I thought that was I thought that's just a staple on what we're seeing right now, and it's just going to continue that way. And I think we're going to see more articles and more economists talking about what it is that we do with all those things in there. All right, let's talk about when you're new. Let's talk about the horribleness of being new. Let's talk about the typical questions that we get. And it's easy when you've had as many agents as we've had, because we see it all the time. We see it on a weekly basis. For us, it's really just, our skin's pretty thick, so none of that ever bothers us, but we are very empathetic towards the agents. We know exactly what they're going through. The company that I actually created was built empathetically because of how hard it is to become a new agent. In fact, that is where SWR came from, was being empathetic towards a new agent because it's just too difficult to do it on your own. So let's start with some of the main questions we get. I got 3 agents out there this week that all had some of these questions. So for them, they'll be laughing. I'm not actually talking about you. This is a topic we do all the time, but you actually ask questions that are in the actual topic today that come up all the time. My favorite one is when somebody gets started. Well, let's talk about the feelings first. I mean, Brent, what are they when they come in? Well, what is their mindset when they come in?
What the hell do I do?
Yeah. How do they feel?
Well, I don't know. I never really felt that as much with you because I started with you. But, I mean, you kind of get out of real estate school, and it doesn't really matter where you go. You kind of feel lost. Like, okay, what do I do?
Lost?
This isn't like HGTV. You know, where are my clients? What do I do when someone wants to talk to me about real estate? How do I get clients?
How do you get clients? Overwhelmed, scared, not sure, uncertainty, don't know what to do first. These are all common questions. And as someone who's new, when they come in, that is completely normal to feel that way. In fact, if you don't, I worry about you because you should be feeling those things because there's just so much stuff out there. It is an overwhelming industry. But look, when you have people that have done it for, 11 or so years, like Brent, 21 years for me. I mean, we still to this day have to pause on certain things, which means it's never a stop. We keep learning, and it means that you're not going to learn on the first day, and you might not ever learn for a long time. So it's okay to feel like these things. You're not supposed to be an expert in the beginning. I've made this comment on several episodes throughout the years, and I still stand by it. But when it comes to experience, honestly, a lot of the agents, and don't take this bad if you're one of them, but even the agents under 5 years, they're not so experienced. I mean, if you look at how many deals they've done in that amount of time, most of them haven't crossed 30.
No.
And that's just not a lot of houses.
There's very few home or deals that are cookie cutter in a way. You know, if you just do the same type, then you'll be okay. But as soon as something different happens, which is all the time.
Well, you know how I feel too, and this is a good takeaway from today's show too. My agents are well aware that I have never been a fan of teaching someone basic 101 contract. I am well aware there is no such thing as 101. It doesn't happen. There's no contract that's 101. There's always something wrong with it. I can't remember the last time I looked at a contract and went, we're good, or a deal, and then we had no problems. There's always something wrong. There's always something weird. Here's another takeaway. Tons of takeaways from the show today. We always get the agents. This is a good one too, especially if you're new. We always get the agents who are like, why does this always happen to me? And it seems like all the bad things happen to me. I got news for you. It happens to all of us. All of us have these things. You are
I said
not
that
isolated.
so many times. I remember specifically thinking, why do I get all the bad ones? Why do I get all the weird ones? And I thought it was just me.
Yeah. There's nothing special about any of us. We all get the crap.
My mom said there was something special about me.
She said that all right, in more ways than one. So it's not just you, okay? It's not just you, and you have to start understanding that first, because the sooner you start grasping hold of that that's not the issue, then you start realizing, what do I need to do to fix it, okay? And you start accepting it. Right? So acceptance becomes one of the first things that you have to start looking at. So another common thing we get from new agents is when they, one of their favorite comments is, what does my first day look like? Right. That's a question I make fun of, right?
You would ask that in any industry, though, you know?
True. That's a good point. You could. And it's silly because this is not an industry nor a job that is going to take a daily routine for quite some time. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk on this conversation. There are a lot of my fellow brokers that don't like it when I have this conversation because they don't agree with me. They actually believe there is a first schedule from day 1, day 2, day 3. I just don't think it pans out that way. Am I saying you can't do it? No, right? That'd be great, but I just don't think it works that way. I think your first year is so filled with getting clients and learning how to do it and so sporadic that you really can never say any day is the same. Now, are there consistent things in each of those days that should be done? Sure. Yeah, that can be said. But to start off going, what do I do first on my first day? That question really should be, what do I do my first 6 months?
Right.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of agents, when they get in, they think that, okay, I got to go get clients, and those clients are going to be ready to buy or sell right now. And that usually is not how it works. You get somebody, and within the next 6 months to a year to 2 years is when they're ready to move. You're planting those seeds early, and you're going to reap it a lot later. So that's where the work comes in, but they may not see the reward. And you'll probably touch on it later, but then when agents quit, that's when that would have worked if they had just stuck in a little bit longer.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. And that's why you've got to break it into, what do I need to be doing over the first month or so to get started? So when we start talking about those types of things, Brent, what should they be looking at as they start going through some of that stuff?
As far as like exposure, getting themselves out there?
Yeah, I mean, what should they start doing? Where should they start? We got to give them some type of.
The very first thing is start with your friends and family. You know?
What's that?
Are you talking like reaching out to your friends and family? I mean, that would be the first thing. It's the easiest thing. Well, unless you have a bad relationship. You don't want to talk to them, but your immediate sphere of influence is the first place to start. You may get a few actually quick deals out of that. I personally haven't gotten a ton of referrals from family, but I've gotten a lot more from friends. And then, getting yourself out there, getting involved in your neighborhood, getting involved in networking, just putting it out there that what you do, volunteer with groups, get involved and just meet more people. That's the biggest thing, is meeting people and letting them know what you do.
It really goes into the old Nike saying, which I like it. I don't care for Nike too much, but I do like the just do it. That's one of my favorite quotes. It's so simplistic, but it pretty much is saying exactly what should happen. Just do it. Stop talking about it. This is a big takeaway from the show today too. In fact, this is the number one takeaway for a new agent. Just do it. Okay? Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me what you're going to do, where you're going to be, what you're going to want. Just do it. Okay? This is the phenomenon where you have the agent that starts off slow, and you ask them how it's going. They're like, well, I'm still getting my database set.
Yep.
They say that on week 1. And then you ask them 6 weeks later, and they're like, well, I'm still working on my database.
Yep.
We don't work on our database for 6 weeks unless we're adding to it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
creation of the database should be quick.
Tons of self-doubt as a new agent. And that's where I think people will put a block up because they don't want to do something that makes them uncomfortable. They think, what is someone going to ask me and I don't know the answer? And they think that that's like the be-all, end-all of it. There's a lot of times we don't know the answer, right? We just say, we'll get back to you on it, or, we'll find out for you.
All right, so that's a good takeaway from today, too. We train our crew very similar, and for others that are watching, we don't mind sharing.
We always lie.
When anybody tells you and they ask you, especially when you're new, something you don't know, that is not something you fear. You immediately pop off. I'll find out for you here in just a minute. That's it. Don't sit there and pretend. Don't act like you're supposed to know it. Don't act like you've been doing it for 20 years and try to answer stupidly. Basically, tell them, hold on, I'll find out the answer for you. Right. People respect that a lot more than someone tries to fake their way through it.
Well, the generic questions you usually get are just, how's the market? That's what they want to know.
Yeah.
What are interest rates doing? That's pretty much it. I mean, they're not going to ask too many in-depth questions when they're first meeting you.
Well, keep in mind, anybody who's scared as a real estate agent, what are you scared of? The general public really doesn't know that damn much about real estate.
Yep.
They don't know what you do. What is it you're scared of?
Yep.
You think they're about to quote some type of Harvard recept that was written about, neighborhoods and their progression of appreciation from 1970 to 19? I mean, they're not going to ask you something like that.
No.
They can only ask you some of the big ones.
Right.
How's the market?
Right now, you're going to get, or you're still getting tons of multiple offers. That's the stuff you're going to get.
So stop being scared.
Yeah.
Stop being worried. I have to admit, when an agent tells me, well, what am I going to do with this? I'm like, what am I going to do if I get hit by a car tomorrow? I don't know. Don't do that. Just do it. Just get out there and do it. Don't worry about it. Do the right thing. Say what you know. Tell them you get the answer when you don't know. Hopefully you have a very good supporting team, broker, manager, team lead that's available quickly for when you need things like that.
And if you don't, you need to go to joinswr.com.
And you could. Joinswr.com. That is what we do. You know what? It's funny. You can look at it that we have shameless plugs on our own show. Those aren't shameless plugs.
We have no
shame. It's a fact. Yeah. What you go through, if you look at what we do at SWR, it is very unique. It is very unique. You will not find it anywhere else. You'll find people that say they can do it. You'll find people that attempt to do it. But you have to have the systems in place to be able to do or be available for the amount of people that we're available for in the amount of time that we do it. That's all there is to it. You can sit there and say all you want that, you're available, but you have to have the systems in place. And that really helps new agents when they go out there, because we're basically telling them, you're usually only a few minutes away from knowing exactly what you need to do here. So don't worry about it. All right. This is a huge takeaway from the show. Stop worrying. Anxiety is horrible. This country's so sick with anxiety too. All of us. I got it. Everybody's got it. Everybody's on pills for anxiety, and that's okay. But don't let it overwhelm what you're having to do as far as your career goes. Because the bottom line is, this is not difficult if you have the right people in place. That doesn't mean there's not difficult times. It means the task itself is not difficult. This is a very simple process that we're doing. Do things get in the way of it, make it harder? Sure. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're supposed to do. But you should not be scared. All right? You've got to knock that off. The stuff about, I don't know what to do, that's, who said you did need to know what to do? There's a few simple things that you need to know to do, and you should be learning those if you have the right type of leadership. So focus on those things and don't worry about the other stuff. And I love my favorite, still to this day, literally 15 years, I could say 20, but I didn't really start training and teaching or running anything until my 5th year. But it kills me when an agent spends days talking about, what am I going to do if the seller asks this? I'm like, what are you going to do if you get a listing? When are you planning on getting one? It could be another 8 months. Why the hell are we having this conversation right now? You need to keep your eye on the ball. All right. And look, I love the enthusiasm. It's not like I don't want someone to talk about that. I don't want them to ask about it. But look, you got other problems. That ain't one of them right now. We shouldn't be talking about your worry about something that's not there yet. You talk about some anticipation. What's the old Chinese proverb? Anticipation is worse than death. I mean, it is. That's terrible. They got that one right. It's it's horrible. So don't do it. Worry about what you got in front of you right now. Worry about the things you need to do to get up and going. Another one of my favorite things with new agents is when they, I was talking about how they get their database, and 6 weeks later they're still getting their database, and then they say, well, I got to get my office organized. So they talk about,
got to get my headshot.
Waiting for my desk calendar, my pens, pencils. I mean, you're wasting time. You're procrastinating. You want to talk about a huge takeaway from this particular show? Procrastination is the worst thing for a new agent. Anxiety and procrastination, the two things, they're just so bad.
Yep.
And every freaking agent from here to Kingdom Come does it when they're new.
Wouldn't you say that the best agents that you come across, the most experienced, are some of the most laid back agents?
Yeah,
If you
because
met 'em,
they've learned.
Do you have a card? No, I don't have any. I'm sorry. So what do you need?
Yeah. And look, I don't think anybody would ever call me a hypocrite. I call myself out before anybody. And there is no one more nervous than me when I first started. Maybe it's because I didn't have enough people to help me, which is why I created mine since someone didn't have that. But look, I was awful, just a basket case all the time. And Brent's right. You fast forward, 5 years after that or whatever, it just bounces off the skin. There's really nothing that bothers me. You're so concerned when you do a listing presentation and you're so apt as to what the seller is going to say. And when you do it for a long enough time, you're the one that starts telling the seller, we're not doing that.
No.
This is how it's going to, it's hard to do that when you're new.
But that eliminates most of your problems down the road, because that goes back into our other show where we talked about setting expectations. And when you kind of take command of the room, your problems go way down because you set that expectation.
Well, I've come to learn that I think the clients, at least most of them, I think it comforts them when they see that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, I don't know why you talk to me like that. You must know something.
Well, if you were dealing with an attorney and the attorney was wishy-washy and seemed not very confident, that wouldn't give you the best taste in your mouth.
That's a great analogy. That is. So I like that. I do. If you're interviewing an attorney.
It's my first case.
Yeah. Yeah, he's over there. He or she's over there. Well, I don't know. Would you want me to do this? That they don't like that.
No.
That doesn't comfort them. It's kind of reminds me of my cousin Benny when he's asking him. He goes, "How many murder cases have you had?" This is my first. Have you done this very often? No, I just graduated school. I mean, it's just not a very confident. It's not a building confidence type of thing, right?
Yep.
That's good, Brent. That's a good one. I never thought of it like that, but that's pretty good. Brent started turning to the opening as to what is it that we do, what is that we need to do, So he was kind of giving a very general conversation, but it really can be summed up in he said it, and I just like to rephrase it. You've got to pound the pavement. You got to get out there, and that takes many forms. Getting out there is not just meeting people; it's how you meet people.
Yep.
So we've had a couple of agents this past week who I'm just super impressed with, because that's their mentality right now. Their mentality is, I got to get going. And they know who they are. And I'm going to tell you right now that you are way ahead of most of them. Because that's exactly the type of attitude you're supposed to have as a new agent. I need to get going. I don't want to be waiting. There's that whole thing about 10% of agents do 90% of the work. That 10%, those are the ones that are like, I don't want to be waiting on my cards. I don't want to be waiting on this. I need to get going.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a couple of them this week, and I love that. It makes me feel good.
It doesn't make me feel good because I didn't recruit them.
You did what?
I didn't recruit them. Doesn't make me feel good.
You need to try harder.
I know.
Actually, a couple of those are my recruits either. They're actually within inside the firm. The agents brought them in. So
nice.
Yeah, maybe we should let them do it.
Let's go on vacation.
So yeah, you got to get out there. You got to do it. Yeah, you've got to start wielding your way, coming up with a game plan as to where I'm going to be. So we're not going to get into lead gen because that's a show in itself, because we are talking about what do I do when I first get started. So the conversation is general in nature, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've got a list of places that I want to go see that I can start going to on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to start looking at, can I go to what are the city events right now? What city events are out there?
Yeah.
What type of volunteer activities do I do already that I can be more involved in? What type of activities such as events that are going on in the community that I can be involved in or that I could help or support, I'm looking at those because that's the first way you get your name out there.
Yep.
You start talking to people. Now, everybody who knows me, I'm huge on networking. I'm still not even the biggest fan of the more modern way of purchasing leads because I just think they're too cold, even though you still have to do it to some extent. To me, lead gen is really centered around meeting people and getting out there and showing people that you know what it is that you're doing and that you're actively involved. And the longer you wait, the longer it's going to be for you to pick up somebody. Because remember, those events, you don't typically pick up somebody right then and there. You usually pick them up the 6th or 7th time that they've met you and they got to know you. And they start passing your name around. Okay? So I think that's another issue that a lot of people have. They don't realize that this isn't something that happens overnight. We talk to people all the time about mailers.
Mm-hmm.
And the professional marketers will tell you it takes an average of 7 months for you to send 2 mailers a month to the same address before you become worthy of trash, which means on that 7th month, after they've seen 2 mailers from you for the past 7 months, they're finally like, hey, that Brent guy sent us something else again. And they throw it in the trash. 7 months just so they remember his damn name.
Right. And the cost to a new agent, that can be a lot. You know, you don't have any money, no income's coming in yet. And it's a commitment to be mailing that out twice a month. It's not
So that's a
cheap.
good takeaway too. I'll give you something else today as a tip. I don't think you should be sending out 5,000 mailers.
No.
I think you should pick an area, a small one, preferably where you live, if it's not induced with other agents. And I think you start there and you start perfecting that area. Expertise in small target marketing. And I believe that you really shouldn't be jumping around to other areas until you can show that you're good in one area already. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. Why am I going to go there if I haven't been able to do it here yet? So, and take that with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean that you just ignore everybody else. I just think if you're going to have a concentrated marketing plan, that you should be focusing on one area and start figuring out what works. Because whatever works there should work somewhere else. And whatever doesn't work there, it's not going to work somewhere else either. So why waste the time in 2 neighborhoods? So that's a big takeaway too. In fact, a lot of people don't know it. I get it every once in a while. People ask where did the name Small World Realty come from. That's what SWR stands for. And I'm
Favorite
like,
ride at Disney World.
what's that?
His favorite ride at Disney World.
Yeah, it is not. It is the worst ride at Disney World. And that is not where the name came from. And trust me, we know because when we went through trademark, the folks at Disney were very abrupt about that cannot be ever confused. And if you've ever gone through federal trademark, you're put in industry ranks. And of course, Disney is not in real estate, at least from their themes and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was not a problem. But Small World Realty came from concentrating on small target market areas before we moved on to somewhere else. A lot of people don't know that. And of course, the world part was in there just because if I ever wanted to move it in other places, I didn't want to have the old Lone Star Realty or Bluebonnet Realty or Come and Get It Realty in somewhere like Massachusetts. It's just a little difficult to have that type of real estate company. So that's always a fun story too about the name generation. I always tell everybody it took over 32 names for me to pick up Small World Realty because there were so many others that were out there. You just don't know how creative you think you are until you really get into it. Brent, before I get, because I'm probably not going to go the full hour today, go ahead and let's get our sponsors in before I forget. Sorry to throw that out to everybody, Mark, you as well, but let's go ahead and I get those guys out of the way.
It's okay. All right. Our first sponsor is Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections. He is our go-to home inspector. We, of course, always give our clients a number of inspectors to choose from, but Martin is the inspector we prefer. He is always on time or early, finishes in a timely manner, gets the report to you the same day, and all reports are color-coded. Red for serious issues and blue for minor things to look at. You can always book him at bpginspections.com or reach him at 817-401-3240. And our second sponsor is Greg Holdberg with Liberator Health Insurance. Your affordable solution, or your solution to affordable healthcare is here. Join the Liberator movement and take control of your healthcare. Customize your healthcare plan to fit your healthcare and budget needs. Use any doctor or hospital without a penalty, in or out of network. Teladoc is included in all plans, no annual deductibles, and no copay. The Liberator Deal of the Week. A small business now offers its staff individual health savings accounts that cap out at $2,500 to cover out-of-pocket medical expenses for just $40 per month per employee. As an independent agency, Liberator is committed to transforming healthcare in Texas through innovative healthcare plans that are affordable and rich in benefits. For more information and to get a quick quote, call or text Greg Holdberg, independent health insurance broker, at 214-886-4688 or visit them at liberatorhealthinsurance.com.
Thank you. Guys, love it. Love the sponsors and everybody out there. Guys, I have to cut it short today. The schedule is really rough for the next couple of days. So believe it or not, 15 minutes is important to me today. So I'm going to have to cut it short on today. But I want to thank everybody out there for watching. Keep passing this on. Great show for new agents. We will see you next Thursday.